Hey, beautiful people. So, welcome back. This is TheCHI. Right now, we're on episode 5. I know I missed y'all for episode 4. I'm sorry, things were going on. So, I'm going to kind of do like a mix mashup with the two of them, especially because episode 4 really was just a filler episode for episode 5. So, you'll kind of catch the glimpse, and I'll kind of go back between both episodes to kind of explain where we are right now in TheCHI. So, the episode 5 opens up with Emmett suit shopping or prom suit shopping with Emmett. And they're inside this boutique in Chicago, and he's putting on a jacket and it doesn't quite fit. And Emmett's kind of helping him get it together. And they're just having a bunch of different life conversations. And it was such a nice scene to see because, as we know, Emmett kind of adopted Kevin as like his little brother when Brandon was killed in the very early scenes because they were very, very close. And so it's one of those things where like he now has this second little brother. I mean, sorry. Kevin now has this like big brother and Emmett, and it's just very, very cute, their relationship. And Emmett is talking about how he can't believe how grown Kevin is, and they really are older now. And he explains how he's so excited to be helping him pick out a suit. He can't even believe he's helping him do that, and he's paying for one. And Kevin lets him know, hey, you don't have to pay for this. I actually have the money for this. And he's like, really? Because this is custom. And basically, he finds out that Kevin is making really good money as, in this gaming world. And Kevin even tells him that he has a gaming house in LA that wants them to be on their team. As you know, these things are really, really big now. And like gaming is literally considered a sport. So, Kevin is making a lot of money from this. And this team in LA wants him to now be a part of their team. But that means he would have to move to LA. And, he's never been outside of Chicago before. Emmett is advising him and saying, like, how could you leave TheCHI? Like, this is where we're from. TheCHI is everything. And he's like, yeah, but I don't know the world outside of TheCHI. And Kevin is, and uh, Emmett is kind of sad. You can see he's melancholy in the situation because he's saying to him, like, he basically says something like, if the real dudes keep leaving here, we ain't gonna have nobody left. Like, you can't leave TheCHI. This is our home. And it does make Kevin question if he's making a good decision if he decides to go with this team to go professional. And it kind of puts doubts in his mind that he kind of contemplates throughout the entire episode. Meanwhile, across town, we're over at Smokey's, and Papa is doing a prom proposal with Kenya at the restaurant. Remember, Kenya is Papa's new co-worker that's 19. Papa is 17. He'll be 18 in like 6 months, but still, you know how I feel about that situation. So he asked her to prom. She says that she would go with him. And that kind of is it. He does like balloons and stuff. And this is before the restaurant opens up. And then we switch over to the other side of town where Duda is talking to Bakari. And specifically, this entire episode is themed around the prom. And Duda's talking to Bakari, and he mentions to Bakari that he has a gift for him. He brings him down a couple of cars into the chop shop because Duda's now doing chop shop work. And he shows him this really nice SUV that's black and basically tells him that this is what he's going to be driving for prom. That's a big thing with proms this year in general. A lot of the kids are like getting cars rented and luxury cars rented. My nephew had one. Like they will have it for the weekend or they'll have it for a day or two. And the parents really are out here paying for these luxury cars. Like they're, paying for these AMGs and these Lamborghinis and all kinds of stuff for these kids to have it for one day or a couple of days after. But either way, Bakari is excited. He's super hype about it. He's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But Duda opens the trunk of that car and says, but what about these? And he really was doing it to help Bakari, but he also was doing it to just be devilish old Duda and reminds Bakari that, hey, there's a bag of guns in here that I gave you. And you were supposed to give this to somebody to hold so that they would not be at this chop shop. And you did not take care of that. And you need to take care of that. And so he tells Duda he will do it. And Duda says, fine, you better, because otherwise you don't get the car. And then something else could happen that's worse. So Bakari is stressing out right now, trying to figure out how is he going to hide these guns for Duda. In other news, we're focused on Tiffany and Rob and this whole, cannabis operation that they got going on now that they've gotten their own warehouse. As we know in previous episodes, or probably episode 3 and 4, we pretty much learned that Tiff and Rob are done and really don't want to deal with Duda. And Tiff has been really inspired by this guy named Cairo, who was a link up from her, one of her suppliers, Dante. Well, she's supplier for Dante. that she used to deal with, and he's encouraged them to grow their own organic supply. And so he told them that they needed to get a grow house, and her and Rob have acquired that. And she's kind of hanging out with Cairo. He's showing her, the different supplies and how everything is growing, and they're looking at different buds in their grow shop. And while they're doing that, they hear this noise outside, and they walk outside to see and run outside. And basically, somebody is stealing Tiff's car, the car she just got, the car she got from Emmett. And she's, of course, pissed off. She's like, what's going on? So Dante is there when the car gets stolen. So is Cairo, and so is Tiff. So when they're standing outside, of course, Tiff is pissed. She can't believe this is happening. And Dante says, hold up. I think I know who took it. And she's like, what? He's like, do you want to argue, or do you want to get in the car? So Dante and Tiff get in her car, and they head over to wherever Dante says that this car is stolen from. And lo and behold, where do they show up at? But Duda's shop. So Dante knows Duda. New news for us, because we did not know. And essentially, of course, that's where the car is. The car is at Duda's chop shop. The guys took the car by accident, not realizing that it was Tiff's car. And that car was just given to Tiff by Emmett, who got it through Duda's car guy, who got it from the chop shop. It's crazy. But Tiff is pissed. She's cursing about the situation. By the time her and Dante get there, and Rob shows up after he finds out what's going on. So I'm thinking that Rob came to the grow house, and Cairo must have told him what was going on, and he must have automatically also knew. It's interesting how everybody know the chop shop them took the car. And so Duda gives Tiff back the car. The car, of course, has a broken window on the passenger side because they smashed the window to get into the car to steal it. And Tiff ain't had nothing but like a Nissan. That's so weird that they stole that. But anyway, um, Dante is talking to Duda. Duda like takes care of it or whatever. And then Dante says to him, hey, y'all need to slow down on stealing cars, because y'all stealing people's cars that like, y'all already stole. Like, like this is weird. And he's kind of giving him that information because he knows Tiff and he cares about Tiff. And Duda tells him, look, you need to be mindful about not standing up for somebody who ain't even your woman. Because as we can see, Tiff is talking to Rob and he's comforting her behind them. And we know Dante cares for Tiff. What I found most interesting in this moment is that Dante and Duda know each other. And I also found it interesting that Dante did not feel uncomfortable approaching Duda the way he did about the car and telling them to slow down. Most people that end up approaching Duda end up dead or physically assaulted or something. And it was interesting that he was real cool with him on that. So I really wonder if there's some other layers to this relationship. But Tiff gets her car back, and Rob is even more frustrated with Duda and their situation. So this was one of the saddest parts of the episode to me. Keisha is at work. She's a teacher, and she's sort of like going over stuff. And another teacher, kind of slash administrator, I guess her supervisor, walks in and lets her know that they're going to have to cut her due to budget cuts. Now, as we know, Keisha just got this job like less than an episode or two ago. So we're to assume that it's been like quite a few weeks or even a month since she's been in this job. The teacher lets her know that it's an unfortunate situation. It's due to the city's budget. And they had all these different factors that played into what they decided to do. They're going to have to cut other people. But, Keisha's been a little bit late a couple of times. And she's also left early a couple of times. And that's something that was a factor somewhat in them cutting her. But even if those things weren't the case, they may have had to still cut her anyway. And Keisha, I don't know why I'm getting Tiffany and Keisha messed up. Keisha is, of course, frustrated with the situation, and she's really sad about it and melancholy because this was her first job after getting her degree. And, she really pushed forward in this position, but she has been struggling to balance out her life because the kids are at home, and it's made it stressful. Like, that's why she's been late sometimes with the drop-off situation, with having to take up some of the slack that Emmett hasn't been picking up because he's doing a million things. And it's just making it harder. And we know in the last episode, Tiff even asked Emmett, should they get like a nanny or something like that? And he was like, no, we don't need a nanny. But genuinely, they need to figure out some type of balance because this is really messing with her life. So, this is a hard fall for her. And it also just reminds her of how much time she's not getting to dedicate to specific things, including herself and balancing out the motherhood situation because now they have multiple kids at the house. She later on kind of speaks to Dre about the situation, and Dre actually talks to her about the possibility of getting a therapist. So we're focusing on Victor, and he just got this city council situation. He's still lamenting over that. They've had him really focus in on that in the last couple of episodes. It actually is something that prompted him to want to start this like men's group for some of the guys on the show. So they actually meet up at The Rock once a week to talk over their issues. And it was really, really therapeutic. In episode 4, we got to see them form this group. And each man got to kind of go in this circle and talk about what's stressing them out. It was really beautiful because it was like Victor, it was Darnell, it was Emmett, it was Shad, it was Gemma's dad. I always forget his name. It was a chief of staff. It was just a really beautiful moment, and it was nice to see amongst Black men having this circular discussion and conversation and talking about their issues. There's not a licensed therapist there, so they're just kind of counseling each other. But it was a really beautiful moment, and it also was something I think more communities could use, of men being able to sit down and talk with each other in a therapeutic way. Everybody kind of just talked and was honest and real about what was going on with them. And that was a doing of Victor, so it was nice. But he still struggles with his own insecurities, and one of them that he's going through right now is trying to make sure that he balances out his job as like a politician, but also a person of the people. He's worried about changing over into something that he's not as a result of having this like more corporate thing. He talked to them about, in the last episode, he talked to some of the guys about the pressure of feeling like, you have to be a politician. So there's decisions that you have to make that aren't always comfortable. And at the same time, the people in the community will hate you for it. And then also, when do you make time for yourself? Because you're always on, you always are trying to think about what you can do better to, serve your community, do for your community. And then people don't necessarily give you a break or a rest because they're going through their own things. And so when do you have time to go through your things? He talks about some of his discomforts, and he's actually eating breakfast with Jake at the table when they have the conversation. And when I tell y'all, Jake has really grown on me and has really grown up. His maturity level, I think, has a lot to do with his relationship with Gemma, but also just the fact that he's just growing as a young man and getting smarter about how he navigates in the world. And he really offers Victor some words of wisdom. And he basically says, like, you have to be who you are, and you have to be comfortable being who you are. You got to make sure that you balance out serving the community, but also making sure that you take care of yourself. And people that know you and really mess with you, they'll know, why you're making certain moves. And as long as you stay transparent, you should be fine. It was very grown. It was very adult. It gave me, kudos to Jake for just being a adorably mature little brother, but also just like it shows the relationship of them growing. And it also shows the positive ways that Victor, aka Trig, has sort of rubbed off on him, because that's a lot of the mature things that he would say to him, you know, when he first moved into the house. So I just love that for them. On the other side of town, Maisha is helping Lene get ready for prom. She's doing her nails. They're going over how nervous they are about situations and what they want to do with their lives. And Lene specifically is nervous about the fact that her brother Jamal wants to meet Bakari. And she's nervous because she knows Jamal feels some sort of way about Bakari, because Bakari works for Duda, and he knows, Bakari is involved in street life stuff, and it's not a positive for her. She really cares for Bakari. She wants Jamal to like him. She's very nervous. And, Maisha's shocked that she's nervous, but she says, it is going to be what it's going to be. Jamal knows he was in the street life. He knows what that's like. And she said, that these guys normally don't want to be in the street. They have to be in the street. Now, I kind of disagree with that a little bit, but in Bakari's case, I agree. Because as we know, Bakari was homeless before this. And he also did not have like a family structure. He really needs the money. And, there's nobody out here taking care of him in that way. And he's, going to be older soon, but he hasn't had the same life as these other kids. So you understand that maybe he's choosing it out of necessity, but what that really leaves him with, I don't know. And then how does that affect Lene, who doesn't have this situation going on, whose family wants her to stay out of it by her brother Jamal and her parents, but also who could get caught up in his stuff. Emmett talks to Tiff about the carjacking because he finds out about it. And Emmett comes over to the house, and he's super hot about the situation. And Tiff is like, you need to calm down, because you're not even checking on me. You're checking on the car, and you're not asking me questions about what happened. And, she's like, you need to pipe down. We went back, Dante and Rob, took care of it. And he's like, why didn't you call me? And she's like, because you're not my man. So I don't need to call you and let you know what happened with the carjacking because what was you really gonna do? And so he's like, nah, you should have still called me. I would have talked to that. She said, Emmett, you're not my protector anymore. And it really hit Emmett when she said that. It's interesting to watch how they have these moments of transition with Emmett and Tiff and how he's transitioning out of his relationship with her into his relationship with Keisha. But because they have a kid, I think, and him and Tiff were together for so long, you could see there's moments where he still feels the need to like try to play the knight in shining armor with Tiff. And it's like, you got to remind yourself that you're with a whole other person now. And it's just interesting to see that these dynamics are coming back up. But nonetheless, Emmett leaves the situation hot. He's, on one right now. And Tiff is like, you need to go home because I already got the car back. And, I'm over the situation to a certain degree. We then see Bakari pull up in the car that Duda gave him for prom to let Lene know that that's the car they're gonna be riding in for prom, and that he wants her to go out with him to a friend's house further out in the city on prom night. And she's like, we're not doing that. You're not getting none from me. And he's like, I'm not trying to get none. I'm just trying to spend time with you. And she's like, whose car is this? Because obviously the car is super nice. Bakari's in high school with them. And, where you getting this money from? Like, how, what's going on? So Bakari says he is a car from a friend. He doesn't tell her it's Duda. And he basically says that, he got it from a friend for the night or whatever, or for the weekend. And the same thing with the friend's house. Like, it's going to be somebody who, like, loaned the house for the weekend or whatever. I'm assuming it was going to be one of Duda's spots. But Lene is also kind of, the wheels are turning in her head about the fact that Bakari is really deeply involved in this street life situation. And, could she be caught up? But, they're headed to prom nonetheless. So Emmett with his hot head heads home and he gets into the house and he sees Keisha sitting on the couch and he's still pissed off about the situation that happened with Tiff and the stolen car. And he lets Keisha know that Tiff's car got stolen. And he asked her, did she know? Did she talk to Tiff? And I want to say the other reason why he asked her that is because when he was arguing with Tiff in front of the house about her car getting stolen, he finds out from Tiff at that moment that she and Rob are growing their own supply, and that she told that to Keisha when her and Keisha met up to just have like a girls' night. And he's like, why aren't you telling me stuff? And she's like, I had to tell you, like, did Keisha tell you? Like, I told her. So he asked her, I guess, Keisha in this moment about the car because he's wondering, did Tiff tell Keisha before she told him? Keisha says no, she didn't know anything about that. And then she lets Emmett know that she got fired. Emmett says why. He actually sits down on the couch and they start having more of a cooler, calm conversation. She says, it's because of budget cuts, but they also mentioned the whole thing about the lateness. And she feels like she's having to take up a lot of the slack that Emmett's not taking up with the kids. And he's mentioning how busy he is. They kind of get into a back and forth about Keisha feeling like she's not being prioritized, and also that there's just a lot going on and she's going through a lot. She doesn't always feel comfortable to tell him what's happening. And she feels like Emmett is doing a lot. And, these things are changing for him. Like, he's got this nice car now. He's got them into this nice home. He's got nice clothes. He's doing all these different things. And she feels like Emmett is out here just like enjoying his life, doing what he wants to do. And so she starts to get angry about the fact that she doesn't feel like he's getting the balance. And she's had to pick up for things when he's had to like leave the kids later on, things like that. I certainly understand where she's coming from. I'm trying to find out where I see more of the imbalances. I think it has to do with like when they drop the kids off and pick them up and Keisha having to be late for school because of that. Because I feel like right now I am seeing Emmett and her with the kids kind of equally, but maybe one or two scenes before they showed Emmett, her sticking Emmett with the kids and leaving to go do something. Like when she went to go hang out with Tiff last episode so that they could talk and hang out as a girls' night. She mentioned that. I also want to say that Keisha also made some banging food dip. I think it was a crab dip or something like that. And Keisha mentioned to her that she should be selling it. So I honestly think they're setting us up for some type of catering situation with Keisha, because I feel like between the housewarming where Keisha kind of made all the food and everybody kept saying how well Keisha cooked, and this last moment where she hung out with Tiff, I think they're trying to indicate that Keisha should probably get into catering, which would be great for her because she's a nurturing person anyway. She can cook and it would be a business for her. But I know she had her heart initially set on teaching, so I don't know how that's going to go. And she basically tells Emmett, look, I'm not finna sit at home while you out here living your best life. On the other side of town, Shad and Darnell are leaving a building because in the last episode, when they were having dinner with everybody, and Shad was talking about how hard it is to find a job, and they were talking about different jobs they think that maybe Shad could try to go out for. Darnell was saying that people are always looking for handy people to like come and fix things in their home and like somebody who's affordable. And there's a lot of single women out here. They could actually market something where it would be like, they would be like, these sexy men that come to the house to fix stuff. And women always like a nice looking man that's a handyman. At least that was Darnell's idea. He said that he thought about that idea years ago and nobody really supported it, but he's thinking about it. So lo and behold, this episode, Shad and Darnell are going to these houses. They're starting to start up that business. And so they go to the first house, and this is where they're coming from when they kind of meet up in front of the car. And Shad is like, they spend a couple of hours. I forgot what they were doing for the person's home, but Darnell is like about to split the money, and he only gives Shad $100. And he's like, $100, what I'm gonna do with this? And he's like, well, we're just starting out, and I didn't ask for a lot of money from the person because we need to build up a reputation and a name. And that's all well and good for Darnell because he has another job. But Shad, this is his only work right now. He takes $100, but he's like, this isn't enough. I gotta find some other type of gig, or we're gonna have to start doing more. He's like, this is how it works when you start up a business. But Shad is also like, look, this is not going to be enough for me to sustain myself. And we notice that now he's starting to really feel the pressure of trying to be, not being a provider in the home that he's living in with his girlfriend. Now, this is by far one of the sweetest moments to me. If the melancholy was Keisha getting fired or the sad part, then I would say this was one of the cutest parts to me. And we see Gemma in her room getting ready for prom and struggling with like some dress she bought online. The color looked phenomenal on Gemma just because of her skin tone, this beautiful chocolate. She had this beautiful orange dress on. And I actually thought it was kind of cute, but she wasn't feeling it. And it was meant to seem like an ugly dress. But she's struggling with it. She's not really feeling it. But we know that prom is normally a time for young women, especially when you're in high school and middle school, you're embarking on all these different things in your life. And specifically, you're embarking on like this new journey as a young woman out in the world without, your parents being a part of it so much. And we know Gemma only really has her dad because her mom left them. And so Tierra, who's currently dating her father, has been over at the house at this point regularly, walks past and sees Gemma in the mirror not feeling her dress. And she co-signs and says, no, that dress is not it. And she offers to take Gemma shopping. They have a conversation about it. Gemma at first isn't sure she's feeling it, but she agrees to go shopping with her. And they have a really, really cute, fun day. Like they end up going to the spa, and they're having like really honest conversation. And Tierra talks to her about just prom and her confidence. She's very honest with Gemma about her life and about dealing with different men. And Gemma even asks her questions. And Gemma does talk about the fact that her mom isn't really present. It's just her and her dad. And Tierra brings up the fact that the mother left their family, and Gemma does a co-sign. Like, I don't really know what that dynamic was, and maybe they talked about it in earlier episodes, but I cannot remember, or earlier seasons rather, why Gemma's mom left exactly, but you can clearly see that there's a void there. And although her father attempts to play both parents, it's just not going to work out. And you really need that softness. You really need that one-on-one woman time. And since Gemma's the only kid, she doesn't have an older sibling or older sister, anybody to look up to. Even in the community, most of her friends are her age. So Tierra really spends time with her, and it's very, very sweet. They even hold hands at the end while they're getting massages, and she helps her find a dress. Keisha goes to her parents' house after her whole fight with Emmett, and she comes in on Dre and her mama having a argument about similar the same thing. And she comes in and her mama's saying to Dre, you're not gonna be doing your you're not just I'm not gonna be sitting at home while you out here living your best life. And Keisha just said that to Emmett. So she ends up talking with Dre. Dre is actually on her laptop and she's sort of smirking. What we kind of find out is I believe um I believe Dre and her mom are going through it because essentially in the last episode, Dre, who has an office at The Rock, so she is like a social worker now. She kind of does like social work stuff. She has an office at The Rock, which is Tracy's like foundation or whatever. And I guess The Rock has started to lease like parts of the offices or give parts of the offices to people that need like office space. And across the way, she hears somebody and hears some chanting going on, and it's actually Dre's ex. So before Dre got with Keisha and Kevin's mama, she was with this other woman who was her fiance and left her. And that's who now is working across from her. And I think she does like some type of massage. Like I think she does like Reiki massage or something like that. And so she has a massage table in there. She's got incense burning. And Dre cannot believe that this woman that just sort of disappeared on her after they broke up is now working directly across from her at the Rock. And, she's asking her, like, what are you even doing over here? Whatever. And I can't front. During that scene, you could tell that this woman is flirting with Dre. And Dre is like married now. You know what I'm saying? Like married, got kids, everything. And even shows her a picture of the grandbaby. And the woman is saying that she's married now too, but she's clearly flirting with her. And you could already tell that if Dre even deals with this woman on any level, it's going to be problematic. So that's kind of what they're arguing about when Keisha walks in. Keisha walks in, talks to Dre about therapy, and tells her that she's not feeling great about her life and what should she do. And Dre says it's okay to go see somebody. And you don't have to make it marriage counseling. You can do a solo thing. And she strongly has Keisha considering that she needs to go into therapy. You got to remember, Keisha went through a lot in the last couple of seasons, and she never really got formal therapy. She sort of just like pushed through in multiple different ways, and people came into her life that kind of helped her to get past some of the things of the kidnapping and the with the SA situation and having a baby and all of these pressures, but she's never really sat down with a medical professional. Now, back to the dark side. We see Shad and Bakari having this conversation because, as we know earlier, Duda told Bakari he will not be able to get that car and he will be in some trouble if he don't have no place to hide them guns. So Bakari is talking to Shad about doing that for him. He has a bag of guns with him. Of course, Shad is against it because he's like, I'm not going back to jail. I'm not doing this. Why are you even involved with this man? Like, he's going to get you in trouble. And Bakari's like, I would never do anything to put you in jeopardy. All you got to do is hold them. We just need you to hold them. And he's like, no, I'm not doing it. And Bakari's like, you could use the money. Like, what are you doing? There's a lot of back and forth here. And you almost like a big brother, little brother struggle again happening because we know that Shad was really pro helping Bakari out before he got with Duda in terms of trying to keep him out of trouble and also seeing good in him when Jake and Victor were more so on the like, leave him alone, he's no good type situation. So Bakari feels like he's helping him out, but he also knows helping him out of trouble with Duda. Shad is highly against it, but Bakari ends up throwing some money on the table, and he actually throws $2,000 on the table and says, I know you could use the money. It was kind of sad to see because he's peddling something to Shad that he really doesn't want. And at the same time, Shad is looking at that money like that would be such a game changer for me opposed to that $100 I got from Darnell earlier. So Shad reluctantly agrees to take the guns. He said he knows what he's doing. He takes the $2,000 from Bakari. He doesn't know when he's going to have to give the guns back. He takes the guns and he puts them in a vent in the house. Now, y'all know in that house, Shad resides with his girlfriend, who is not in any criminal trouble. She's a curator at a museum. And she doesn't know that he's involved in that. He puts them in the air vent, which I don't know how long that's going to last or how positive that is because it's the wintertime and it's snowing in Chicago. And I don't even know how you put guns in a vent and the heat is not going to affect the bag. I don't know. It was in a leather bag. It was also the stuff going on, but it just feels a little weird. Uh, Emmett approaches Duda because he's still on one. We still not past this situation. Emmett approaches Duda on some rah-rah energy. He really out here deciding that he's the toughest person in town. I don't know what he thought this was an episode of Power or what. So he rolls up on Duda knowing he is not that dude and proceeds to get angry about the fact that he should have told him about the Tiff situation and why did he let him know and why did these guys steal Tiff's car. Duda is chilling and a little bit more laid back. And he's kind of yelling when he first gets in there and is telling the other guys, like, where's Duda at? Where's Duda at? So Duda, of course, appears. And he's like, what's going on, young blood? Like, what's the situation? And he's like, yeah, why didn't you tell me what was going on? Why did these guys steal Tiff's car? He's like yelling at him. And Duda kind of initially is on calm. So he's like, the situation got handled. Like, essentially, you late. We took care of it. It's a done deal. Tiff got her car back. It's whatever it is. And I want to say this. Duda does have like a dark calmness to him. And this is what makes him such a good villain. Because even when Tiff and Dante and Rob came to retrieve the car from Duda, Rob tried to throw some, you're going to pay for that window. And Duda said, nah, I'm not paying for the window. He said, what y'all can do is when y'all have the next shipment from me as far as the money, y'all could take it out of that. So he was saying that once he gives them this next shipment of, drugs and they sell whatever supply they have from him, they can take the amount that it would cost to get the window fixed from the supply amount they have to give back to Duda. So that's how they could get that money back. But he ain't fixing no window. And so, he's talking to Emmett in that same level of energy. Emmett is still on one, and he's like, you need to calm down. They got everything back, like it is what it is. And then he's walking off, and then Emmett says, F you, Duda, loud as I don't know what. And why did he say that? The last person that talked to Duda that way was killed right in front of him. Duda walks down, turns around, walks up, takes a gun, and puts it at Emmett's throat. It's like, you need to mind your manners and remember who you're talking to. And it's at that moment that I think it crystallizes again for Emmett that Duda is a dangerous guy. I'm in business with this man, and he literally could kill me at any time. And I think Emmett also is reminded that he's not that dude. So it's just a dark moment because you realize, like, okay, Emmett is one of the additional people that is going to probably be in this mix of folks that, if this is in fact the season when Duda is killed, all these enemies keep piling up. Otherwise, on the other side of town, Papa and Bakari are getting ready for prom, and they're actually in the room together getting ready. And Papa is also talking to his daddy. His dad is a minister, also somebody that's currently having beef with Duda. And, in the last episode, Duda kind of gave one of his guys the okay to, I believe, like, kill Papa's dad. So, Papa's a minister. He has some dealings with Judah before, where he kind of, I guess, helped him out in some way, allowed him to like run some money through the church for a donation. And now he doesn't want to do that anymore. He's not interested in doing that. Papa kind of calls him out on being a better man of God, all that kind of stuff. So he denied Judah in the last couple of episodes, and Judah was not feeling that. And so he basically told his like right hand man Nuck, like, take care of that for me. And we thought something was going to happen in episode 4, but it hasn't. So when I tell you on pins and needles this episode, because I thought that, the pastor was going to be a done one. And there seem to be highlighting these moments with him that make you feel like that's going to happen. He's having these deep conversations with both Bakari and Papa, which makes you feel like they're giving these like end of the line conversations that happen right before somebody gets killed. But he's given each of them advice, and he's also given Bakari advice about how to have confidence when meeting Jamal, because Bakari is nervous to meet Lene's brother. Keisha tells Emmett she wants to go to therapy. Emmett says, how are we going to afford that? She says, you need to figure it out, but I need it because I've never had it. And it is really affecting me and how I can move along with our life in this space. I haven't talked to anybody about all the things that's going on with me. He's like, well, why don't we just do couples therapy? She's like, I need it for me, just for me. In order to be able to manage my life, Emmett, I need this help. And he agrees. So this was like a crazy moment to me. And it was also kind of I don't know that it was a sad moment, but it was just like a really messed up moment. So, Gemma and Tiara have been out all day getting really beautified, and specifically getting Gemma the perfect prom dress because we know she hated what she was wearing earlier in the day. They've been bonding. They've been having almost like mother-daughter time. It's been very, very, very cute. And upstairs, Gemma's getting ready, Tiara's helping her. And then they come downstairs so that the dad can see what Gemma is wearing for prom. And the dress was really, what the girls are wearing now is really simplistic and cute. It was very nice. It really complimented her skin tone. Her makeup looks great. Her hair looks great. She looks beautiful. And she comes downstairs and her father is not having it. The dress was gold. It had like a really beautiful sparkle to it. It's like a little cutout slit in the front, but it's actually covered with like a material that like hides her skin. So it's not like her skin is out. And then like the side had a split that goes a little high, but it wasn't anything that you don't see young people wearing now. And it was totally appropriate, but he was not feeling that dress. He tells her no, she needs to go upstairs and change. He's not okay with that dress. It looks too grown. Her makeup looks too grown. Everything looks too grown. He is raising a teenager. He is not raising a grown woman. And it's inappropriate. Tiara gets pissed with Gemma. Gemma's already upset and stomps upstairs. Tiara is pissed with him. She starts arguing with him. Of course, she's not her mother, so she can only say but so much. But she like defends him, and he's like, she looks like, I don't think he said she looks like a whore, but he kind of indicated something like that. And Tiara's like, well, I dress like that sometimes. Like, what are you saying about me? And she sort of walks away with anger from him as well. And, he's sort of left to sit and like be grumpy in his own mood. So the guys are over at, I believe they're over at Jake's house, and they're waiting for the ladies, and they're kind of like getting ready because some people are gonna kind of come over to his house to like I guess get going, and or they might be in Kevin's house. I'm not really sure. They was in somebody's house. And they was waiting for some of the girls. And Jake gets a text from Gemma saying that she's going to be late because she has to now change her clothes. And then Papa gets a text from his date saying that she can't come, but does he mind coming over to the house later, after prom? And then they ask Kevin, who is he taking? Because nobody knows. Because remember, nobody knows that Kevin and Maisha are talking again except for Emmett. So Kevin hasn't told anybody who he's taking to prom. Maisha hasn't talked to people about who she's going to prom with. And so they essentially are like just having a guys conversation about the night and if anybody's getting lucky, all that good stuff, all the girls having to do whatever and having a match. And it's just a good conversation amongst them. And then you just reminded again of how much they have grown up. We really have watched these kids since the beginning. So our babies have grown up. And I'm just saying our babies because if you've been watching The Chi since the beginning, we met these kids when they were super, super young. And so many of the cast members now that play the younger kids in high school, a lot of them were on the show from the beginning. Maisha, Kevin, Jake, Papa, and they were on there from the beginning and they were like 10, 11 years old maybe when they started doing this show. And so for them to be like 17 or like they were like 11, 12, and for them to be like 17 years old now, 18, on their way to school, we really are graduating with them in a serious way because this show's been on for 6 seasons. So anyway, everybody's fresh. Everybody's walking out the house one by one, and they're doing something that you're now seeing a lot with like the kids over prom in the last couple of months. Online, we've seen all the pictures. I mean, it really is a matchy situation going on. This well coordinated more than it's ever been with prom. Kids are getting their dresses custom made. They're getting custom made tuxes. They're making sure they match their date. All these grand entrances, and they're sort of getting that moment. They walk down the step, each one of them, and they're kind of getting shouts out because the whole community of people that we know that love them are outside. Their parents, all of the same folks that kick it with them are outside, like rooting for them and yelling as they're walking down one by one, and then they grab their date's hand. So we got Jake and Gemma, we got Maisha and Kev, we got Lene and Bakari, and of course we have Papa by himself because his date couldn't make it. But they're still getting all the love from the parents. They take their pictures individually, and they also take the whole, community photo and then, the family pictures. On the other side, as they're getting into their cars, some are getting into a limo, Bakari is about to put Lene into his car, and he ends up standing next to the car with Jamal. Jamal's meeting him for the first time. And, Jamal's apprehension is always the same. This is a street dude. He's into street stuff with Duda. Nothing good can come from this. And Jamal says, like, look, she is my only family. You need to make sure that you take care of my sister because anything happened to her, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? So he basically just said what you need to say as an older brother, and they keep it moving. We then enter into what is one of the twists of this season, which is Alicia, aka Lynn Whitfield, and Bianca, aka Jill Marie Jones. So, as we know, in the previous 2 episodes, we find out more about Rob's family because all we really know is that he's dating Tiff. We don't know where this guy came from. What we find out is that Rob is the nephew of Q, who used to be Duda's partner, who Duda killed and last season. What we also find out an episode or 2 back is that Q had a sister named Alicia who happens to be Rob's mom, and that's his nephew. And that was played by Lynn Whitfield. And she offered to give the money to Tiff and Rob for their grow house if Rob went finding out who killed her brother, his uncle. And then we also find out in last episode that Duda, who has a wife, we know he has a wife played by Candy from Real Housewives of Atlanta. Her name is Rosalind. But, he has these like random affairs and different women and stuff like that. But he's had one consistent one with someone named Bianca, played by Jill Marie Jones, who we all know from Girlfriends as Tony. It was so good to see her in the last episode. It was interesting. I didn't think they would make her a regular, and I didn't even recognize her in the last episode at first. So it was like interesting to see that they're making her a part of the show for these, at least these next couple of episodes. And so we see Alicia and Bianca sitting down having this conversation. And what we find out is that the place that her and Duda were at was at this like nightclub or whatever. We actually find out that Bianca owns that. And that Alicia gave her some of the startup money for that club when she first got started. And so that's their connection to each other. And, she's there having a conversation. You could tell that Bianca kind of is annoyed with her, but she deals with her because she gave her that money. And she basically, talks to her about, the type of people that are hanging out in the thing. It's more like a lounge to me than it is a club. But you could tell, like, Alicia doesn't remain a silent partner, and she's giving suggestions about the type of people that should be in the club and all that kind of stuff. And then, like, Bianca's having this conversation with that. And Alicia also brings up the fact that Bianca is still good with Duda. And she heard that the guy that got shot in the club, in the lounge, because as we remember, Duda was in the lounge talking to Emmett, and a man that worked for him was sitting in front of them and mentioned, like, could they keep it down? And for him to tell Duda to keep it down, we knew it wasn't going to end well. And sure enough, Duda walks up to him and shoots him directly in his face, over that situation, and kills him. So, Alicia is going back down memory lane with Bianca, and Bianca says, "Look, I'm always going to be grateful for you because you believed in me when nobody else did about opening up this lounge, and you gave me the seed money." And so Alicia basically tells her, "Don't forget that you owe me a favor as a result of that. And I may be able to call it in one day, and you need to be available to do what needs to be done." So it's safe to say that prom was lit. I mean, they did an amazing job of shooting this prom. It's in a beautiful hotel in Chicago. The prom was just amazingly shot. We got to see the kids having fun. We got to see them rapping to their favorite song, the energy, all the things that make prom dope. Eating, having a good time, dancing with your friends, having one of the last best great times with your friends. Them all hanging out and dancing. We get prom queen and king. Maisha is the prom queen. Jake is the prom king. It was just amazing moments. Tons of taking pictures, tons of going to the bathroom with your girlfriends, all the good stuff that prom encompasses. And they have this like boomerang-esque moment on the balcony. And for people that are like familiar with any Black film from the 90s, this was a moment where Eddie Murphy is upstairs with like Martin Lawrence, and he's upstairs on this balcony with Martin Lawrence, David Alec Greer, and they're having like a conversation, and they're sort of overseeing this party. So Eddie Murphy did this like launch and for like the Strange perfume, and it's like a really amazing scene with the three of them standing at the top, and they're sort of discussing it, and they can oversee the whole party. And that's kind of what this scene reminded me of with Papa and Jake and Kevin. And so they're having this like deeper discussion about life, and they start having a discussion about Kev talking to them about LA and saying that he's thinking about going to LA, and he's telling them about the gaming opportunity. And he's worried because people have been telling him like, you shouldn't leave the Chi, you should stay. Like, he doesn't want to leave his community. He loves it there. He knows that this is where his friends and family are. And again, here comes Jake for the win. Jake's maturity level has just been amazing. And Jake is like, you need to go. Like, don't worry about us. Like, there's nothing, you've seen everything that you can see in Chicago. Like, you got to move on. You got to find other things. Like, we're going to be here. And so Papa's like, well, what about Maisha and all that? And Jake is like, we gonna be here. All that's gonna be here. You need to like go find out for you and go live life. It was just a really nice moment of seeing them sort of escalate from, high school kids to like young men. And in that moment, to have your friends encourage you to the world outside your window is a really, really big deal, because that's what Kevin is contemplating. Do I stay in my community and grow big here because so many people leave us and then we don't have anything to look forward to? Or do I explore past what I've already known? And Jake and Papa are pushing him towards the unknown and towards his future. So across town, while the kids are having a good time at prom, the grown folks are celebrating Victor and his win at his house. And Fatima has the house really nicely decorated. As we know in the last episode, Fatima was sitting down with a few other trans women that she had come up with who had taught her a lot. And she was talking about, trying to make her own money and make her own way. And they were encouraging her like, hey, you have this man that loves you. That's so rare for a lot of us. Like, he loves you. He accepts you. The people that surround him accept you and care about him and y'all situation deeply. Like, she's like, don't mess that up. And they were saying like, be a housewife if you can. And she was like, I really don't just want to be a housewife. I want to do something for myself. And I think that we're getting Fatima in her decorating bag. I'm feeling like she's going to have some type of career as an interior designer, but she really has made that house a home. Because if y'all remember, Jake used to live in that house with Reggie, and that house was pretty much like a holdup for a drug den anyway. It was the worst of the worst. It was horribly done. And when Trig came in with Imani before they broke up, Imani was able to make it a little bit nicer, but their focus was just trying to like survive every day. And, Armani was trying to run her hair business out of there and stuff like that. So it wasn't really a moment where you could really sit back and try to make it a home. But Fatima has really put her foot in it, and the house looks beautiful. Um, so at the party is the chief of staff, Shad, Darnell, Tierra, Dad, who I can never remember his name. And they're just all congratulating him and, hands up, everything like that. Well, the chief of staff says that his fiance is coming and he wants everybody to meet his fiance. And look who comes walking into the house. His fiance is the guy that sold the house to Emmett and Keisha, and also to Duda, is Duda's realtor. And Victor finds out as he's meeting the fiance and stuff like that, that Duda actually gave him the seed money to start his company. And, Victor's big thing is he's trying to move as further away as he can from Duda, but he really can't but so much because Duda pretty much helped him to win this campaign. Him and Rosalind came in and shored up the power money and things like that that needed to be done for him to get over the hump. And, he was trying to get away from Duda and he still couldn't completely at the end. And so he sees that people that get involved with him obviously don't end up making good choices and they end up owing him. And he's trying to warn his campaign manager that the fiance needs to stay away from Duda. But the fiance, the chief of staff reminds him that Duda helped him with the money. He's like, he's a bad guy. I need to leave him alone. And the chief of staff is like, look, I trust you and I know you, but you're just telling me he's a bad guy. You need to tell me, like, what is the definition of a bad guy? I know he's kind of a questionable character. He's like, no, he's not a good dude. For whatever reason, Victor decides to tell him that he helped Duda hide a body. Why did he say that? That made no sense to me. You just put yourself in a lot of harm's way. Rosalind in the last episode already came up to him and told him that the feds are looking into Duda. Because what we found out in the last episode was that Q was actually an FBI informant. And so he wasn't just the partner that Duda had for all those years that helped him to like move drugs through the city and all the little gang life app things that they were doing. He was actually an informant. And now the FBI wants to know who killed their informant. It just doesn't make any sense why this man decided to tell his chief of staff, who he's only met like less than a year ago, that he helped hide a body for them. So he just mentions to him that he needs to, stay away from him. He is dangerous and let his fiance know, which he does proceed to do later on in the episode. He talks to his fiance and just says that Duda's not a good person. And the fiance says, I already got the help from him. There's nothing I can do, but I'll try to watch my back. Bakari drops off Papa after prom. So the kids have already done with prom. They're going their separate ways. And Bakari is riding with Lene and they drop Papa off at the girl's house because she could not come out and she had to cancel on him. And Papa gets to her home. He knocks on the door. Bakari and Lene pull off and she comes outside and right behind her comes a little boy. And that's when we find out she has a son. And see, this is one of the things I already hate about this storyline with Papa and this girl is like, again, I know that they're not that far, they're not 5-10 years apart, but just the level of life changing is just weird to me. Like they're trying to connect Papa by making it like he's this old soul, but he very much is still a young person. And what we're already finding out is that, this 19-year-old girl has a kid and she's in college. They don't have the same lifestyle. And it's just weird how they're trying to connect this. Because again, I just don't think this would be even seen as appropriate if Papa was a young lady and this was a young man. But either way, they're letting us know that she has a kid. I guess Papa's saying he's not really afraid of that. But the reality is this kid works as an assistant manager at a barbecue spot, part-time as he's in high school and he's about to graduate from high school. Whereas, this girl is like already graduated in school and has a kid. Like their lives are not the same, but they're going to keep running this storyline for us. Anyway, Bakari and Lene are riding high. They're after prom. They're headed to the spot that Bakari wants to take her to. And they're listening to like their favorite song. And they're both like yelling the song out. And they're also riding really, really fast through the city. And I remember watching this and already going, please, Bakari, slow down. Because first of all, you're in a stolen car. Because he got that car from the chop shop. So, even though dude, I was gifting him with the ride is stolen. And I don't even know if Bakari has a license. We don't know any of those things. So they're speeding, and lo and behold, the cops pull him over. And you see Bakari shaking. You see him already nervous because he knows all of these things. Lene doesn't. Lene only knows that Bakari supposedly got this car from a friend, is borrowing it for the weekend because a friend let him use it. She does not know the car is stolen, and she does not know anything about the chop shop or any of those things. So she's just an innocent person riding with him or his girlfriend that's supposed to be, the situation's supposed to be working out for them. We meet up with Kevin again, and he's actually spending time with Maisha after prom, and they're having this discussion about the different things. He hasn't told Maisha about LA. He poses a question to her about what would she feel if he moved to LA, or if what she needed to do, or he got an opportunity. And she says, you got to go for your dreams or whatever. And he's like, but I don't want to leave you. Like, he asked her, like, hey, he doesn't say he's moving, but he just says about opportunities, about going out to LA. He kind of poses it like that. And he says, like, would you move? And she's like, if it made sense for my career, if there were opportunities, like, absolutely. I wouldn't stay in the Chi just because we grew up here and this is what we love. Like, I have to see what's out there for me. And if, opportunity presented itself for my career, I would absolutely do it. And the fact that you're there is like a bonus. And I love that they had her phrase it that way, because what you always hate to see is some girl that like is so in love with some dude, she like moves for him and doesn't move for the opportunity that's there for her, like for job opportunities and stuff like that. So I like that they framed it that what was important to her was moving for her career, that the opportunity that was going to be out there wasn't just one of being his girlfriend, but something for her as well. But the added bonus is that he's going to go too. And from that, Kevin feels good about the decision that he decides to make, which is to call the LA team and tell them that he wants to join them. And what do they do? Because I guess his feeling is that he's going to join them, ask Maisha to join him, and him and Maisha will, go to LA. Bakari and Lene get taken to jail, and it is not a good scene. We kind of ride out to a bunch of different music tracks that sort of score the best parts of these scenes of emotion for the rest of the episode, because we see that Bakari and Lene get arrested. And of course, we see Lene being bailed out by her family, which is Kevin and Keisha's parents, and Jamal. And Jamal looks at Bakari in his face like, I told you to not get my sister involved in no mess. And now we are bailing her out on prom night. I just saw you hours ago. So he is done with Bakari. And Lene is looking at him in disappointment as they're walking out. Papa's dad comes to bail out Bakari, along with Papa joining him. And they're riding in the car, and Bakari just silently cries. And it is so touching, but it is so sad, because he knows he's messed up on multiple levels. Mainly the fact that, he got arrested in general. He's able to bail out, but there's going to be a case that follows to a certain degree. But really, he messed up with Lene. The one thing she asked him not to do, and the one thing her brother asked him not to do, was to get him in trouble. And Lene did not know that car was stolen, and did not know anything about all these other things. So, that's his connection, and he's, probably going to lose that. The feds knock on Victor's door, and they ask him to come with them because they want to ask him some questions while he's at home. Duda meets up with Bianca outside of the lounge in the car, and they start having a conversation about Alicia and her coming around. And Bianca could kind of sense that Alicia doesn't mess with Duda, and maybe thinks that Duda has something to do with Q's murder. Duda is in the car with Alicia, and he's like, what was that situation about? And she's like, she helped me get the lounge and all that kind of stuff. And she just wanted to know what was really going on with the whole situation. She likes to try to run everything. And he's like, are you keeping your mouth shut? And she's like, what do you mean? And she's like, so did you kill Q or what? And he basically tells her, yeah. He says that Q was an informant. He had to take him down, and that nobody else knows but one other person, which I think Nuck knew, but I think he's talking about Victor, because Victor is the one that helped him hide Q's body. He gives money for Alicia to try to he gives money to Bianca to try to distract Alicia so that she doesn't keep asking questions. And we see Keisha start therapy. Thank y'all for joining me. I hope to see you in the next one. I'll try to be more consistent with keeping up with the Chi, because we're on the last couple of episodes. I think the Chi normally has 10. We're on 5. So we got a few more down the pipeline. But thank y'all for joining me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.